All right, well, good evening. Hope you guys can hear me in the back. Isn't this place great? What a great place. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So we're so thankful to have this event here, and welcome everybody to the 2017 All-In Dinner and Silent Auction. And I want to thank you all for coming. I also want to thank our presenting sponsors. Our venue sponsor is Big O Dodge. If you guys saw those great cars outside, woohoo! You can check them out. Big O Dodge was gracious enough to offer those, as well as our presenting sponsor, United Capital, is here as well. So I want to thank them. But we also have 38 year-long event sponsors, and they've all been running on this slideshow throughout the evening and on the banners as well as on your program. So I just want to thank all of our sponsors that sponsor AIM and all of our events throughout the whole year. You know, AIM is such a community driven program. We're such a community-driven nonprofit that everybody really cares and wants to get involved with us and care about this community. So we really appreciate, and look at this room. The first time we've had an event here, and you guys have really come out to show your support. So we really want to thank you. Hopefully everyone's had time to get over to the buffet. We want to thank Uptown for providing the food for us, and Pepsi for providing the sodas and the waters. We also, if you haven't had a chance, our silent auction, we've got some great stuff. So make sure that you go and bid on those items over there as well. So we're going to get started. I'm going to call Courtney, our board chair for AIM, up here. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Courtney White, and I'm the board chair here at AIM. And when I became board chair, apparently praying for every AIM event came along with those duties. So I never prayed in public before this job, so bear with me. Will y'all please pray with me? Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us all together. There are some of us here who are not Clemson fans, and bless them. I want to thank you for letting us be involved in this wonderful organization that helps so many in our community, whether they're hungry, whether they're jobless, whether they're homeless. The generosity of the folks in this room just helps us to help them and to give them a hand up, not a handout, so that they leave with dignity and that they are able to become productive people in our society and raise productive children. We thank you for this food that you provided for us tonight. We thank you for all our friends in this room. In your name we pray. Amen.
I just want to make one more announcement. The silent auction is not closed, just in case there was any confusion there. It's not going to close until after the program tonight, just so. Yeah, after 9 o'clock. So, and if Abby Shepard is around, can she turn the air up? Because it's kind of hot. And I'm going to ask Beverly to come on up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Beverly Odom, and I represent Big O Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram tonight, and we are excited to be here and to be a part of this. I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. Just a few words about AIM. It's been my privilege over the years to work with and support this wonderful program, not just personally, but corporately as well. My journey with AIM began many years ago at Concord Baptist Church as an ACT Teens teacher, working with young teenage girls on community projects, things that we considered missions of mercy that would instill in these girls a desire to volunteer, to give, and to have compassion for others less fortunate. Later, with my husband and my sons, we found opportunities to join together with AIM on a few projects that touched us all deeply. Today, my sons and I, through our business, Big O Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, we've been fortunate enough to support events like this one tonight, and we're proud to be a part of it. How amazing is it to partner with an organization that truly changes lives? that gives hope where there was none and empowers people to become functioning, self-sufficient, and proud. People that now have the ability to give back to the very ones that gave them a hand up and not just a handout. I'd like to encourage each one of you here tonight in attendance to support AIM in every way that you possibly can. As we look deep inside of ourselves, we realize that we've all been blessed by our Lord's grace and His mercy, and then we feel compelled to help. Your heart for this organization and the difference that they've been able to make in this community has brought you here tonight. Allow that love to radiate through your volunteerism and through your many ways of supporting AIM. Thank you so much.
Well, at least it shows the flexibility of AIM and our ability to adapt in a time of need, correct?
Yes.
Well, I'm Christy Kingbrock, for those of you who I don't know. I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of Anderson Interfaith Ministries, and I want to welcome you all here tonight. What a great crowd. It's very exciting to see this crowd and to know that there are some other awesome events going on tonight, and you could be anywhere, but you chose to be here with us, and we're thrilled. I saw Coach Elliott's story on ESPN 2 years ago before the national championship, and I was so touched by his story that I told Amy 2 years ago, I was like, I want Coach Elliott to speak. I want Coach Elliott to speak. And so I was thrilled when he agreed to come and be with us tonight. Coach Elliott, I'm not going to share his story because I think he's going to do that, but I will tell you that he is a Clemson grad. He was a walk-on to the Clemson football team and lettered 3 years as a letterman. Received a scholarship, I believe, as a junior. Now, Tony, you correct me if I'm wrong. He started out, he was an engineering major at Clemson and went to work for Michelin and worked for Michelin for about 2 years and really felt like football was where God wanted him. And so started coaching at South Carolina State, then went to Furman, and Clemson stole him from Furman. So we are thrilled that Coach Elliott's going to be with us. He's been voted as most respected football player. His players have such an admiration, am I right, Rod? For his leadership and his character building. And so we are just delighted to have Coach Tony Elliott with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Christy. Let me get set up here. Rod, you better have said yes. Where you at? I raised you better than that. All right, so I'm a football coach. So I know some of you are still eating, and I can deal with the clanging of the metal on the plates, but there's gonna be no talking. One voice, right? Ain't that right, Hot Rod? One voice. So I want you to make sure you pay attention in the back. But before we get started, I want to make sure that everybody is comfortable, relaxed. Because I know when you're in an environment where money is a subject and you're asking for things, sometimes people get uptight. So we're going to relax, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to start with the exercise. And it's something that we do with our players a lot of times as well. And it's something that Jeff Davis started doing. So everybody stand up. There's also a purpose behind this too, and I'll tell you that in a second. All right, everybody get a partner. All right, everybody get a partner. When you got one, say amen. If you don't, then say wait a minute. All right, everybody got one? All right, I want you to be looking at that partner. All right, everybody got one? I don't hear you, wait a minute. Here we go, I want you to repeat after me. I matter. You matter. It matters. It matters what we say, what we think, what we do, because it matters what we become. All right, you may be seated. So the first reason, okay. I understand I got to give him a second to calm back down. All right. But the first reason I did that was for the purpose of getting everybody engaged, just getting everybody to relax. And then the second purpose is anytime you go after food, okay, I know how it is after people eat, especially when it's 7 o'clock in the evening and you got a full belly and you got a guy up here talking. I know that could put some people to sleep, so I want to make sure everybody's engaged. But we're talking about it matters, and it mattered to an individual to the utmost, and that's the reason why we're all here. Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. It mattered so much to him, each and every one of us, that he was obedient to death on the cross because of the passion that was set before him to please his Father, right, to redeem us back to his Father, and that's why we're here today. So everything that we do at Clemson, everything that I try to do in my life, I try to do it based on that model of making sure that I understand that I do matter. Everything that I think, everything that I say, everything that I do matters because it matters what I become because I have a purpose behind it. If you don't mind, I'd like to, before I really get into my message, I'd like to open this up in prayer. So if you would, bow your heads. Father God, your word says that this is the day that you have made to let us rejoice and be glad in it. And Father, I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful that you're such an awesome God, that you sit high and you look low, that you bankrupt heaven, that you took your own son and you crushed him on the cross for my iniquity, Lord. So at this moment, amongst this crowd of witnesses, Lord, I confess that I'm a sinner. And again, I thank you that you're such an awesome God, full of grace and mercy, that you look low and you love me in spite of. And because of that, Lord, I will do my best to share the message that you have for me, Lord. I thank you for all the families that are represented in this building, Lord. I know that everybody came here with a specific agenda. And I pray, Lord, that as they leave out of here, they will understand that nobody's here by happenstance, that you ordained this day. And so at this time, Lord, I pray that I will decrease so that you will increase, so that you can use me as a vessel to share your word. Because again, there is no mistakes, there is no coincidence, there is no luck. That everything happens according to your will, Lord. And I just give you the praise, honor, and glory for using me as an opportunity, and giving me this opportunity to speak and share my story, a testimony in which you put me through the test so that I can share it to be a testament to others, Lord. And I thank you, and I give you all the praise. And again, Lord, please allow me to decrease and you increase in this building. And lastly, Lord, your word says that when 2 or more are gathered in your name, you're in our presence, Lord. So we welcome you in, and I pray, Lord, that you touch the hearts of these individuals and let them who have ears to hear, let them hear. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, Christy, I'd like to thank you and all of the 24 staff members that you have at AIM, and I think you said 600 volunteers within your program, for giving me an opportunity, because I know that there are probably some more distinguished individuals, more qualified individuals to come and deliver a message in this setting. So I'm really humbled to have the opportunity to be here. I like to make an attempt to be a purpose-driven person. So I try my best to walk by faith and not by sight. So as I was doing my research, I was looking at the mission statement. I was looking at a lot of the things that this organization stands for. And one thing that caught my attention was the philosophy, which it says, a hand up, not a handout. And so that for me was confirmation that I needed to be here tonight, because I get a lot of requests. I was in Charleston last night. There's a baseball game. My 4-year-old loves baseball. But I just felt compelled to come be a part of this event tonight. And I got the confirmation reading that, because that's something that I've used in my life. It's just that same philosophy of a hand up, not a handout. And the reason that I use it is because when you think about it, a handout keeps you on the same elevation, right? It just pulls you along. It just pulls you along. But a hand up rises you to the next level above. And I know in my situation, I needed a lot of hand ups to get to where I am in life, because if it was handouts, I definitely wouldn't be the man and individual that I am today. So for me, this is confirmation that I'm supposed to be here tonight. And again, as you heard in my prayer, I pray that the Lord uses me as an opportunity to touch your hearts and give you a message to encourage you. I do have a short message that I want to get into, but before that, I want to share a little bit about my testimony. You know, Christy alluded to it. How many of you saw the special Sycamore Street that they played on ESPN? So see, there are some individuals, but there's many of you that have not seen that special. And ESPN did a wonderful job. Now understand, ESPN had a specific aspect of the story that they wanted to tell, and what they captured, they did a very, very good job of it. And I'm happy, because it brought a lot of recognition to my family, to the struggle that we've been through. It gave me an opportunity to honor my mom, and also it also provided a platform for Coach Sweeney to be recognized for the awesome man of God that he is, for giving me an opportunity to be a coach at Clemson. So I'm gonna try and keep it quick. I know you said I had 30 to 45. I'm not Coach Sweeney, so I promise you this won't be 45 minutes. So if you came expecting, I know I'm a disciple and I coach under him, but if you're expecting 45 minutes, I don't think I can go that long. All right, so I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit, but I do want to jump into some details. Originally from California. My mom is from Nebraska. My dad's from Charleston, South Carolina. He was in the military. My mom's family moved out to California when she was in high school. So they met, got involved, got married. They together have 2 children. I have four of us total. An older sister, myself, my younger sister, and then my youngest brother. But my youngest sister and myself are the 2 that have the same mother and same father. Well, my dad, and I love him to death, but he was very immature when he met my mom, and he had a lot of growing up to do, and so he was very abusive, had an addiction to alcohol, spent some time doing drugs, and as a result of that, it ended up causing a lot of heartache to my mom. So at the age of 5 years old, we were on a family trip to Charleston to see his family. They got into a big argument, big fight. Obviously, he got physical, and my mom had enough. And so she packed myself and my little sister up, and we moved to Anaheim, California. And so she had basically the clothes that she had on that trip, the money that she had in her pocket, and she took me and my baby sister, and she didn't know what she was going to do. Now, she was running from my father, so we didn't go back to where we were living, because we were living up in Watsonville, where I was born. So she fled my father. She didn't tell anybody where she was going, so she ended up on the streets in Anaheim, California. So this is secondhand information, but I believe it to be true. We were told that because of her situation, we were living in a shopping cart and just roaming around the streets of Anaheim, California. And DSS came to her and said that you have about a week to get yourself situated to find some stable living, or we're going to take your kids away. And so she found a church called Set Free. And Set Free is an organization that has the same vision, helping people through education, support, and resources to become self-sufficient. So they were able to get my mom back on her feet. And so from the ages of 5 to 9, we lived in Anaheim, and she met a gentleman by the name of Wayne Williams. They got married. They had my younger brother at the time, and life was going well. And then one day on the way to church, I'm 9 years old, and I see some kids in here. Any 9-year-olds in here? 8-year-olds? How old are you, young man? You're 11. Are you just happy to go to church every Sunday? That was me at 9 years old. Mom's got to ask you a couple times. She might come in here and flip the light on twice, pull your covers off. So you can imagine, I'm 9 years old, and I don't want to go to church. Okay, I want to stay and watch my cartoons. So I'm pissed off. I'm sitting in the back of the Volkswagen van that we have, and we're on our way to church. And I'm the only one that's not buckled into any kind of a car seat or a booster seat or seatbelt. And so we're going through the intersection, and this is where the Sycamore Street special comes into play. We're going through the intersection, and for some reason, a lady runs a red light and T-bones our car. Car goes into a violent spin. My mom is ejected halfway out the car. She's crushed several times as the car rolls, comes to a stop. And again, I'm the only one without a seatbelt. The car comes to a stop. We're upside down. I crawl out. I see my little brother and my little sister hanging upside down from the car seats. I unbuckle them. I crawl out, and I start yelling for my mom. I don't see her. My stepfather was able to get himself out of the car. He had moved himself to safety, but his leg was very, very injured, and so he couldn't move. So he points to my mom and says, "Get your mom help." So I run over to my mom, and there she is. She's laying in a pool of blood. She's halfway out of the car. She's lifeless. There's a lot of people that have now come to the scene, but nobody's trying to help. So the only thing I knew to do is we were about half a mile from the church. I just took off running to the church. I ran to the church. I'm hysterical. I tried to explain what was going on. All I could get out was accident, and they figured it out. That was the last time I ever saw my mom. After that, because of the situation, again, I was with my stepfather, and my real father wanted to come back into the equation. So he takes my baby sister and myself, and he moves us to another part of California. And again, he's still very immature. He's still addicted to drugs. He's addicted to the street life. And so he puts us in a very, very tough and stressful environment. Over the course of 3 years, from the age of 9 to 12, I lived in 13 different apartments. And many of those apartments were multiple family homes. There were several days where I went wearing the same clothes, didn't know where my next meal was coming from. There were also times at 2 o'clock in the morning that my dad would get into a fight with the people who were letting us stay with him. And now here we are back on the streets, roaming the streets in California, trying to find somewhere else to live. Finally, at the age of 12, he gets locked up. I witness it, and then I call and reach out to my family, and they come and get me from from California and bring me to Atlanta. But because of the financial situation and the burden of taking on 2 kids, they couldn't keep me and my sister together. So they split us up. We were still both in Atlanta, but we were in different households. So you can imagine a 9-year-old who loses his mom, who witnesses it tragically, whose only motivation or purpose for life was to care for his little sister. Now she's taken away at 12. You witness your dad being locked up, who was supposed to be your provider. And so there's a lot of things going on in my mind. Well, and sports was my outlet up until that point. And then when I moved to Atlanta, my uncle wasn't a big sports fan, so he didn't let me play sports. So I became a little bit rebellious. I got into some altercations with his living girlfriend at the time. So then my dad gets out. About a year and a half later, they send me back to California. So I'm back in California, same situation, multiple family homes. My father gets into a big fight with his girlfriend. Next thing I know, her father busts in the house with a gun and has it pointed directly at my head. And he's threatening to kill me, threatening to kill my dad because my father abused his daughter. Well, my dad yells to me, he says, "Go into the room and find my gun and you better bring it out because I'm going to kill him." So here I go from looking at death straight in the face to now my dad's telling me to go be an accessory to murder back in the back room. Well, I run into the room and I act like I'm looking for the gun and I purposely couldn't find it. Well, because of that, my father ends up back in jail, back incarcerated, and now here I am back homeless again in California with a sister that's 5 years younger. So I make a phone call to my family and I said, "Look, if you come get me, I promise you I'll never go back." So to kind of fast forward a couple of years, I was able to come back east, and again, they couldn't afford to keep us together, so I moved to Charleston. My sister stayed in Atlanta. I moved into a household where my aunt was a school principal, and so again, sports weren't very big to her. It was all about academics. She had 2 sons, one that was 2 years older, one that was 2 years younger, and that first year was very challenging because my younger cousin, who's now one of my best friends, threatened to kill me about 3 times, and it's trivial now, but for him it was serious because I ate his cereal. I ate his favorite brand of cereal. He threatened to kill me a couple times and actually took the poker that you stick into the fireplace and came at me. We laugh about it now, but it was an experience to go through. So those are just some of the things that I had to deal with mentally, as I'm transitioning through all these different things that have happened in my life. But all the while, I had a younger sister that looked up to me, and that was my motivation for everything that I did. That was my purpose at the time. I didn't spend a lot of time, conversing with God. I went to church. I went to Sunday school. I did my thing in Sunday school plays, Easter plays. I did everything my aunt asked me to do, but I was never really engaged. I spent a long time being angry at God because I had a lot of questions about, if I'm the only one that's in the car that's not buckled in, why was I not the one that died? Why did my mom have to die? Why couldn't you take me so that my sister and my younger brother can at least grow up with their mom? So dealing with all that, now I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm separated from my sister. My aunt allowed me to play sports only if I had a B+ average in every class. I hated school, but I love ball more, so I did everything that she asked me to do. That led to some opportunities to leave high school as a recruited athlete. I had scholarship offers, but I did not have the big scholarship offer that I wanted. I wanted a Clemson, I wanted a South Carolina, I wanted a Division I offer, and I didn't have it. The only offer that I had that was comparable was the Air Force Academy. So I went out to the Air Force Academy, and the only reason I went to the Air Force Academy, I really wanted to go to Furman. And I waited too long on the scholarship offer on Furman, and they filled up, and then they told me that they didn't have a spot for me, and so I had to go to the Air Force Academy prep school. Went to the prep school, did everything I needed to do, received an appointment to the U.S. Air Force Academy, and then I went into a state of depression. All right, I wanted to go home. They told me I couldn't go home. If you know anything about military academies, they have to have a certain amount of freshmen that stick through a certain amount of time to keep their government funding, so they wouldn't let me go home. Well, I'm a smart individual, but it was a bad decision that I made, so I thought I was smarter than them. I told them, if you don't let me go home, I'm not going to hurt myself, but I can't guarantee I won't hurt somebody else. So they put me in a room, made me see a bunch of doctors, and I quit eating. And I said, I want to go home. Can I go home? I made a mistake. I'm here for the wrong reasons. I admit that. And so eventually, over time, they let me go home. Well, when I decided to go home, that's when everybody turned their back on me except for my aunt. I started to hear comparisons that I'm just like my father. I never amount to nothing. So I said, you know what? I'll prove you wrong. I went to work, and I saw some of the Publix guys that were in here earlier. I met them, and I started at Publix. But I needed to make more money, so I quit and I went and worked on a construction site, became a laborer on a construction site. I worked 7 days a week, 10 hours a day, so I could save up enough money. I saved up $4,000, got into Clemson University. I showed up, and it was a tough day when I showed up because all the other kids were moving in with their brand new TVs, you know, their new clothes, and I showed up with a black trash bag and an alarm clock with $4,000 in my pocket, and I had no idea how I was going to fund my college education. But, you know, I was fortunate enough to be able to apply as an independent student to receive financial aid, tried out for the football team, ended up playing for 4 years, led it for 4 years, earned a scholarship for 2 of the 4, was voted, as you said, a most respected, also was voted team captain after my senior year, but had no ambition of becoming a coach. I was going to school to be an engineer. I had the dream still in the back of my mind. I was going for the White House with the picket fence and the 2.5 kids. I know you can't have half a kid, but I was told that's the American dream, right? Isn't it 2.5 kids? Isn't that the average? All right, so that's what I was chasing, and so I was well on my way. I started working in Michelin, worked there for 2 years, had a great boss, had a great schedule. And then I just woke up one day, as you said, and I was just empty. I felt like, you know what, the Lord blessed me with some of the things that I wanted, but that really wasn't what makes you happy. And so I decided that I wanted to get back into football and become a coach. And from there, I left Michelin. I went to South Carolina State, Furman, and now Clemson. So I wanted to share a little bit about my testimony in hopes of validating what this organization does, right? Because without the resources of that church, right, providing the support, the education, and the resources to help my mom become self-sufficient, then I wouldn't have had a chance after she left my dad. And because of those resources and that support, it helped me, right, to get on the path to where we'd be in a position where, and I know it sounds strange, but that's the gift and the curse, right? Everything happens according to a reason. And I spent a long time trying to figure out, you know, why we ended up in Anaheim, California on that Sunday morning that my mom passed away, but it was all for a purpose. And that kind of leads me into my message today. I know some of you may have came to hear about Clemson football, and I'm glad we had the breakout session and the meet and greet, because that's really the extent of Clemson football that I wanted to talk about. I think that this is a God thing. This is about what our purpose is in life, and that's the message that I want to share with you. So if you give me a second, I want to pull this up and I want to share this with you, and then I'll expand upon the message that I have for everybody in this building tonight. Okay? So I'm going to go old school right here, and I want to read a couple verses from the book of Genesis, and then I'll bring my message, and hopefully it'll all come together, and you'll be able to leave here better than you came in. So we're going to be in Genesis 45, starting with verse 4, and this is talking about Joseph, Joseph the son of Jacob. And here it says, "Then Joseph said to his brothers, 'Come close to me.' When they had done so, he said, 'I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been a famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve you, a remnant on earth, and to save your lives by great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, lord of his entire household, and ruler of Egypt.'" And so I'm sure many of us are familiar with Joseph, but I just want to kind of recap and put some context behind who Joseph is, because for me, being that I have an engineering mind, I want facts. You know, I have to look at the Bible and see the similarities in people's lives and stories to my own, and that brings validation for me, because if not, then I'm going to be the person that wants justification all the time and trying to live by sight and not by faith. So Joseph, you pick up Joseph a couple chapters back in Genesis, and it starts when he's 17 years old, and everybody knows that he's the son of Jacob, and he was the one that Jacob loved the most, because he was born to Jacob in Jacob's old age by his wife Rachel. But his brothers didn't like him, because they knew that Jacob, their father, loved him the most. He even had his own special robe with a lot of different colors that distinguished that Jacob loved him the most. So he's a dreamer. And for some of you guys that came up and got autographs, you noticed that I wrote on there, "Dream big, dream big." He was a dreamer. Now, he was a bold dreamer, because the dreams that he had, if you know the story, he told his brothers that you guys, all 11 of my brothers, are going to bow down and serve me one day. So now, here is Joseph, whose father, he was the favorite, that his brothers already didn't like, and now he's dreaming big, saying that you're going to one day bow down to me. He even told in a separate dream his father that the sun, moon, and 11 stars are going to bow down to me, which represented his mom, his dad, and his 11 brothers. And because of that, his brothers were very, very jealous, very, very angry. So they throw him in a pit. They wanted to kill him, but the firstborn of his father decided that he didn't want that blood on his hands, so he tried to save him. but he wasn't able to save him, so they threw him in the pit, right? And before Reuben could come back and rescue him, right, they get him out of the pit and they sell him into slavery. Well, now he's sold into slavery, so here he is, the favorite son of his father, hated by his brothers, thrown in a pit, now sold into slavery. And so what happens when he's sold into slavery? He ends up in the household of a man named Potiphar. Potiphar was the chief, the captain of the guard in Pharaoh's army. And if you pay attention to the context, there's a couple of times in there it says, and God was with him, and God was with Joseph, God was with Joseph. And as a result of that, even though he was a slave in an Egyptian's household, he became the master of that household. And the only thing that he couldn't touch was Potiphar's wife. And so what happens to him? Potiphar's wife wants Joseph, right? So she makes advances on Joseph, but he denies. And what I like about Joseph is, as you study Joseph, there's three things that he did. Three things that he did that I apply to my life that I think is the message that correlates to the foundation of this organization. First, you got to look up. Then you got to look in, and then you got to look out, right? So physically, Joseph had to look up, right? He had to look up when he was in that pit. But it started before that when he was having his dreams, because in his dreams, he was looking up to God. He was looking up to God all the while. So now he's in Potiphar's house, and when Potiphar's wife makes an advance on him, you know what he says? He says, how can I sin against my God? Not saying how can I sin against Potiphar, but how can I sin against my God? So yet he was looking up. So all the time through his adversity, he was looking up. He was looking unto God. And because of that, God gave him the things that he needed inside of him so that ultimately he could look out and help everybody. Well then, because Potiphar's wife makes the advance, lies to him, he ends up in prison. Well, in prison, I'm going to speed this up because I know I see some faces right there. All right. He's in prison and he meets two guys that were just in the Pharaoh's house. You had the cupbearer and you had the baker. Well, they each had a dream, and nobody could decipher the dreams but Joseph. So they go to Joseph. Joseph deciphers the dreams. One is restored, the cupbearer, and the baker is killed. So 2 years later, he asked the cupbearer, when I decipher this and you're restored, please remember me and tell the Pharaoh about me. Well, what does he do? The cupbearer, he's so excited he forgets. He goes and he works 2 years later, right? 2 years later, the Pharaoh starts having dreams, okay? And then the cupbearer remembers, right? You know what? This guy, he was the only person that could tell me my dream, and the bakers, and it came to pass just as he said. So Pharaoh calls all his magicians and all his people. They couldn't figure it out, so they go and get Joseph out of jail. Joseph comes. The Pharaoh has two different dreams. He deciphers the dreams, and then as a result of that, he now becomes the second in command of all of Egypt. Okay, so here we go. The dreamer, the favorite son, hated by his brothers, condemned to die, saved by God, right? Saved by God. Now he's what? Back in jail. He's condemned. He's rescued by his gift from God that's within him because he continues to look up, right? He's rescued by his gift, and now here he is sitting, at the right hand of Pharaoh. And again, he's second in command. Well, why is that significant? And why did I start in 45 and not start at the beginning? Because the dream was that Egypt would have 7 years of plenty, right? And then 7 years of famine. Well, because of that, he was put in charge of making sure during the 7 years of harvest that you make sure that you prepare for the 7 years of famine. Well, those 7 years go by and they get into the famine. Well, the famine hits the whole land. The famine hits his family's land, right? So his brothers are sent to Joseph, and they don't know who he is. They're sent to Joseph to ask for grain, okay? Joseph knows who they are, but he doesn't reveal himself, right? Because here's what he wants to do. He wants to know, is my father still alive? Is my little brother still alive? So he devises a plot to be able to send them back with grain to make them come back to him so that he can eventually get his father and his brother and the entire tribe of Israel back together. So they come to him. Long story short, everybody ends up back in front of his brother. And this, the portion of scripture that I read is this is when he reveals himself to his brothers. So could you imagine that you tried to kill your brother, right? And then you come back and now you're standing face to face with him. What are you expecting that he's going to do to you? You're expecting that he's going to kill you. You're expecting that you're going to feel his wrath. And basically he says, and I paraphrase, he says, you know what? It wasn't you that sent me here. It was God that sent me here. And it was God's purpose and God's plan to send me here for this very moment to be able to provide and to redeem my household. And if you read further, you know that Jacob's sons, right, the 12 of them became the 12 tribes of Israel, the chosen people, right? So God always has a plan. And so a lot of people have asked me in my life, how did you do it? And to be honest with you, between the ages of 9 and 18, I had no clue. I just got up every day, I focused on my little sisters, and I went to work, right? I wasn't looking up. I was not looking up. I was looking within. But that's the beauty of God. And a couple of things that I want to share, some other verses that help us to understand this concept of looking up, looking in, and looking out. The first one is Genesis 1:27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. So the reason that we look up, right, is because what? We were created in God's image. And that doesn't mean the white people, the black people, the women, the men, rich, poor, were created. And he doesn't distinguish. He says all of mankind was created in his image. So every one of us was created in the image of God, right? So that's why we first look up. The second is in Psalm 139:14. It says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. At the age of 19, attending an FCA, that's when the Spirit hit me. So I went home and I dropped the Bible on the floor. It was God's game plan. I can remember it. I dropped it on the floor and I said, Lord, wherever this thing opens, I'm going to read it. And open to the book of James, right? Now that's my life book. That's my life verse, and I'll share that a little bit later. But again, as I began to grow in my faith, I understood that even though I'm the son of a woman who was killed in a car accident, a father who chose the streets and chose everybody else over me, a guy that's supposed to be a statistic based on my adversity, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. That I serve a God that is the Alpha and the Omega, that he starts from the end before he begins the beginning, right? So that's why we look up. And then the other verse I want to share for looking up is Philippians 1:6. It says, being confident of this, that he who begun a good work in you will carry it on to the completion of Jesus Christ. So that's why Joseph looked up, because he knew who his maker was. He knew the source of his strength, and he had confidence in knowing that the person that created me is faithful and just to complete it until the return of his son, Jesus Christ. Now, moving on to looking in. This is why we look in. Philippians 2:5 says, make your own attitude that of Christ Jesus. So some of us came in here probably with the wrong attitude tonight, right? Did we come in with the attitude of Christ? Did we walk through that door in a function that was your objective to come and socialize? Was your objective really to come and give? Whatever your objective was it consistent with the attitude of Christ? Right? So again, that's why we look within, because if we know who our maker is and we're confident of the covenants that he's made with us, we know implanted in us is the ability to have the attitude of Christ. Now, Philippians 4:11-13. Ooh, Rod, you like this one, don't you? Yes. I'm going to unpack this one here. It says, and I start with 11 because everybody knows 4:13. Everybody can quote 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Right? But the powers of being able to use that in your life is knowing that one, the Apostle Paul wrote it while he was in prison being persecuted for defending the gospel. Right? That's the context in which it was written. And then if you read verses 11 and 12, this is how he unpacks it for you. He says, I'm not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content in whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So the secret is being content in whatever your situation is, whether you have plenty or whether you have little. And for me, my life has gone through both of those ups and downs. I've came from nothing. Now, for many of you, you look at me and you see Clemson football offensive coordinator, salaries are posted in the paper, and I have plenty. But the secret is to be content, whether I'm at the bottom, at the top, because I know the source of my strength. Because the purpose of my life, right? The purpose of my life is not to have a bunch of money. Because if you study, Jesus' teaching, what does he say? He say it will be tougher for an individual with riches to enter the gates of heaven than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Okay, so the secret is being content in every situation. That's what's planted within inside of you. So if you start with the attitude of Christ, understanding that it doesn't matter whether I have a lot or a little, but the secret to me being able to do all things is to be content in every situation that the Lord puts me in. And then in 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. So your shoulders are strong. Your shoulders are strong to carry yourself and to carry others, because again, he tells you and he gives you confidence in knowing that you will never have more on your shoulders than you can bear. We all say that, and some of us heard that coming up, but we never knew it was in the Bible until you read it and you unpack it. He tells you right there that I have built you, right? You are fearfully and wonderfully made, created in my image with strong shoulders to carry yourself and to carry others, because that is the purpose in which he set us out to do. And then this one here, my favorite verse, James 1, verses 2 and 4, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you will be made mature and complete, lacking nothing." So what I've learned from my journey is I had to go through life blind. I had to experience those things, but through his tremendous grace and mercy, he kept me alive, kept me out of the circumstances that I put myself in with bad decisions through his mercy, so that at that moment I could drop that Bible and I could read that one verse, and it spoke to me and explained to me why my life is the way that it is, that I had to go through that adversity and I had to persevere, right? And that inspired me to go learn to have the attitude of Christ, to know that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And then I love this one right here. And Hot Rod and all the boys, they hate me for this one, but it says in Matthew 5:48, "Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." Perfect in school, perfect on the field, perfect in your family life, perfect in everything that you do. Now, we all know that there's only one perfect person that ever walked this earth. But he tells you to strive for perfection in everything that you do, because your heavenly Father is perfect. So he's put perfection within every one of us. And it's our responsibility to chase it. And the only way that we can chase it is to have the attitude of Christ, to make sure that we're always content in every situation. Don't worry about what's on your shoulders, because you can bear it. Consider adversity with joy, because you know it's developing you for your next task, so that you can chase perfection. And then the last thing is looking out. And I think that's why all of us are here tonight. Hopefully everybody came here to make sure that you're looking out for others, right? And it's so tough in this day and age, because we live in a society that says it's all about me. It's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me. What can I do for myself? I'm chasing my dreams, I'm chasing my goals, and I live that. I tried it. But that's not where true peace and happiness resides. True peace and happiness resides in knowing what your purpose is. And so in Matthew 20:28, it says, "Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." So the greatest example that ever walked, what did he do? He came to serve others. He came to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for every one of us in here. Every one of us in here. That's why I don't have shame to stand up here and tell you that I'm a sinner, that I'm an imperfect person. Right? Because I know that there was a perfect one that walked on this earth and died for me, so that I can be reconciled to the Father. And then in Matthew 6:19 through 21, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is there also will be your heart." Okay? So just a little caution about putting your stock and putting your storing up your treasures here on earth, because you cannot take those with you. Okay, then in Romans 12:3-8, I like this one here, and this is kind of tying together this whole message, so just hang with me. I only got 2 more verses, and then I'll bring it all together and close it out. It says in Romans 12:3-8, it says, "For by grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought to, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, through many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. If your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give generously. If it is to lead, do it diligently. And if it's to show mercy, then do it cheerfully." And then the last one is 2 Corinthians 9:6-8. It says, "Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will be abound in every good work." So it started with my testimony, and it took me a long time to be able to share that. All right, because I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, right? Because I was worried about judgment. Until I, turned my life fully over to God and understood that the purpose of my life, now I can share my testimony. And we have a perfect example in Joseph. An individual that relates to every one of us, whether you're in the pit or whether you're the wealthiest person, in your family or in your community, right? To now being the favorite, to being the hated, to being condemned to die, to being restored. Everything that you could experience in your life, Joseph goes through. And why did God put Joseph through that? To save his family, right? So whether you've gone through adversity or whether you haven't gone through adversity, you're in the position that you're in by design, by purpose, right, to be a blessing to others. And that's the purpose that we came here with tonight. So hopefully you guys got a little bit of something out of that. I appreciate the opportunity to share. And I know some of you came expecting Clemson football, but I just felt led in my spirit that this is a God moment, that this is more about others and not about Clemson football. It was an unbelievable season, but I tell you what, these same principles that I'm talking about is what these young men at Clemson football get every day. And Rod can tell you that this is something that we talk about in the meeting room. This is something that Coach Sweeney talks about, and we're not ashamed of it. And that's why you see Clemson as the model football program in all the country. It's uncommon what we're doing right now. It is uncommon what we're doing with our student athletes off the field, and then also what we're doing on the field. And just a couple of statistics to throw out at you. In the midst of 2 championship runs, you know, our young men have set the record for each of the fall semesters with the team GPA. We've had 48 young men have a 3.0 or higher, and we're talking about Clemson University. We're talking about Clemson University, which is a top 25 public university for the last 5 years. We're talking about the average SAT score of the student body is a 1250 with an average class size of 19 students. So there are no football majors. There's nowhere for us to hide our players. They're competing with the best and the brightest in the country at one of the best and top and respected universities in the country, day in and day out, while they're dealing with the challenges of being a Division I athlete. And the result is, the last 5 years, we've been the only team in the country to finish in the top 15 on the field and the top 15 in APR rates, which is determined by a combination of your graduation rate and your retention rate, meaning that you're getting your guys graduated and you're keeping them in your program and making sure that you're being compliant with the graduation rates. And that's uncommon. That is uncommon. And so if I could say one thing to you, if you didn't get anything about Joseph or from the other verses that I shared, just look at this young man right here. Look at this young man right here. If it wasn't for those people at Set Free Church that had compassion and had a vision to help my mom, to provide her resources, to educate her to become self-sufficient, we never would have been in a position for her to get her life back, and I would have grew up a child of the Lord in the state of California, and probably would have led to being in prison or dead by the age of 21, because that's what the statistics say I was supposed to be. But now, because of not just Freeway, but because of the combination of my family, now I have an opportunity to change it, to really, really change it. And now my young boys, I knew nothing about a college fund. I knew nothing about an inheritance. But now my boys will grow up with an understanding and an expectation that there's nothing less than a college education. And I know that it is my responsibility as their father to provide for that. And so there is no football scholarship, there is no baseball scholarship. That's going to be our meal ticket. It is my job as their father to make sure that I provide an inheritance and then also a college fund for those guys. But if it weren't for individuals like yourselves that are giving of their time, giving of their resources, and if you go back and we talked about the body, I know some people are in a position where you could give more financially, but it's not just about your financial gift. It's about anything that you could do. You never know what a word, what a time, what a use of your car, anything that you can do to help somebody else, you never know how far that goes. And so on behalf of AIM, on behalf of all the young people out there that just need a hand up, not a handout, make sure that you look into your heart, understand your purpose, and the Lord loves a cheerful giver. And let me tell you something, if you're a cheerful giver and you're honoring God with the gifts that you give, trust me, he's going to bless you 100 times fold, and he'll give you the things that you can never imagine. Because I promise you, I never imagined that I would be calling an empty reload sprint out with 6 seconds left in Tampa, Florida to win a national championship at Clemson. Trust me. Never. But it started with a dream, and that dream for me was to take care of my sister. And because of that dream, the Lord unpacked it. And he knew what he was doing, and he took me through all that so that I can be in a position. And a side note, she knows about my sister. My sister is a 2-time college graduate. She has her master's in healthcare administration. She is now currently married. She has 2 kids, and so she broke the cycle as well. And so please know that I did not, want to brag about myself, but I wanted to use my example as an opportunity to encourage everybody to look within yourself and see what you're comfortable with, because again, anything that you can do to help others, that's what you were designed for. And again, the greatest man who ever lived is Jesus Christ, and he came to serve and not to be served. God bless and go Tigers.
Can't hold the mic. All right. Tony, on behalf of AIM, we would like to present you with a painting. It's called Deep Roots. Jill Strickland, a local artist, painted this to commemorate our 25 years of service in this community, and it's based on the scripture in Isaiah. It's called Deep Roots. It's the Angel Oak in Beaufort. And so thank you so much for your time and your willingness to be a part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, I'm not sure how you followed that. I'm just so excited that he was able to be with us tonight. It's amazing to win a national championship football game. I mean, so few schools ever have the opportunity to do that. But I tell you what made me so proud of that Clemson football team is the fact that they took that platform, the national championship, and these coaches and most all those players used that platform to share their faith with this country. I wonder how many lives were changed because they used it for that. So I'm going to share just a little how I think that AIM is kind of relevant to that national championship team. It's all of us pulling together. Deshaun Watson is an amazing quarterback. But if he doesn't have Wayne Train and Hunter Renfrow and Mike Williams, he's just a quarterback. And if it's the staff at AIM, we're just an old nonprofit. It's the 600 volunteers. It's all of our partners that make the work we do that opportunity to have a platform to share our faith and to give hope and change lives and to help those dreams come true. It's the Duke Energies, and they're somewhere here. It's been our longest partner. They're our teammate. For over almost 30 years now, Duke Energy has used us as their Share the Warmth organization, their cooling organization. And now they also fund us through the foundation for our education and training programs. If it weren't for that teammate, there might be an elderly person that froze to death or that died of heat exhaustion. And I look over at our Publix teammate. Wow. Publix has done so much for us, I can't even begin to tell you. I think we did the value, and it was close to $200,000 last year, and all the different things that they do for us. Because of that teammate, kids don't go hungry. We serve over 600 families a month out of that food ministry. And I've always heard that if you want to change the life of a child, change the family. And if it weren't for Turnkey Roofing doing jobs for us through our emergency rehab program, they could make a lot more money doing it for somebody else. But they know that if they don't do that work for us, nobody else will. And that elderly person who's now living in a house falling down around them can't get anybody to do the rehabilitation work. They're willing to take less money to help us, help those people. And if it weren't for our friends at Wood Forest Bank, who have given us money from their foundation and come to our training center and provide financial literacy, and Montessori and First Baptist, who give us scholarships for our Women and Children Succeeding program, and Tri-County Tech and Anderson University and Clemson University, and F&S, Food and Nutritional Services, that give us funding. I couldn't share this statistic with you or this outcome, and I'm looking at Dana Grant, our Vice President of Programs, who's worked so hard to make our Snap to Work program work. The first 3 months of our program year, 24 people went to work at an average rate of $13.25 an hour. And that also took our partners at AMED and our partners at BMW and our partners at First Quality, those teammates that gave those people jobs. And I'm going to say that again, 24 people to work in a 3-month period at an average rate of $13.25 an hour. They're no longer on public assistance. And I sit there and I look at the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. They're also tax-paying citizens now, contributing to our tax base. But more importantly, they have hope. They have a job paying decent wages so they can take care of their children. They don't need AIM to take care of them. We've given them a dream. We've given them hope, and we've changed their lives. But you know what? It starts somewhere. And you can have the best running back, and you can have the best receiver. But if you don't have that quarterback to get that ball to them, it's not going anywhere. So without our funders, without you guys out there writing checks and supporting this ministry, we don't have the resources. Our team is dead. Many of you are already on the AIM team. Thank you. If you're not, there are envelopes on your table. Join our team. If you are on the team, but you know what? God's telling you today, I can do more. You might be a volunteer at AIM, but you've never written a check. You might have written a lot of checks, but you've never volunteered. And everybody in this room can pray for AIM every day, that He uses us as an opportunity to change lives. Thank you for being here. Tony, thank you again for your words, your inspiration. And while you're filling out those big checks and filling those envelopes on your table, I'm going to ask Amy if she'll come up and give us some more information on how the rest of the evening will go. What a great venue, what a great time. Thank you all so much for coming out and being with us. Amy?
So we're going to do the raffle drawing in just a minute, but I do want to, our silent auction is going to stay open until about 9 o'clock, so feel free to keep bidding on those items. Tony, do you mind? You want to do it now? You want to wait? Okay. Okay. All right, so we have 2 items to raffle this year. One is a Michael Kors purse that Christy's displaying right now. Yay! And then we also have a national champions football, and tell them who all has signed it. Coach Sweeney, and Ben. I'm sure you can. So if you want to purchase raffle tickets, another 30 minutes. So just, we'll turn the music back on. We'll let you guys just kind of mingle around and bid on some other items and get some raffle tickets and just enjoy this time. So, oh yes, and also the Joy Box is right here. If you've been to any other AIM events, we have this at every event. It's our Joy Box, and it's where you can put donations in. So it's going to sit right here and just enjoy it. And Kim's got raffle tickets right there, and the boxes are right here. So just enjoy. Okay. No, all right.